Hello and welcome to this church at home for the fifth Sunday of Easter. Father Ed Estak here.
Father Joshua Trefny.
And Father Michael Pitkosik.
And we are hearing the first and major theme from the scriptures for this Sunday is love. And it comes to us in a couple of images. So that pushed me, because you know I'm preaching on the sacraments this Easter, to the notion of marriage. And Father Michael has something to say about marriage and the life of the church that kind of got us going.
Well, I noticed that in the first reading, when Paul and Barnabas refer to having to turn to the Gentiles for the proclamation of the good news, there's something of a coming together between the Jewish roots of the church and the Gentile portion of the church, and that the church becomes full, becomes what it's supposed to be, and is beginning to reach the ends of the earth when it goes out from Judaism and begins to include the Gentiles. And there's something of it coming together like we would see in marriage.
Yeah, and the same thing is really happening in the gospel, where Jesus is telling the disciples to love one another as I have loved you, and to continue in that love, right? And to so as they take what Jesus does out into the world, it opens them up, because love is an expanding force in our life. It makes us, it grows our hearts, right? Because when we love someone, it makes it more easy for us to love another person and to bring more people into that relationship of holy love. And so there is, Jesus is really starting them on that path now, which is in this gospel. We're like we're right after the Last Supper, and so Jesus is, even before his death, he's expanding their hearts to get them ready to open them up to the Gentiles even before he dies.
So of course we're reading from John's gospel and the revelation of St. John in the second reading. So this notion of love and imaged maybe most perfectly in the marriage bond. Mm-hmm. And I was reminded of our Christopher West indoctrination. He is the person who's made popular the theology of the body from Pope John Paul II, and he was quick to remind all of us in these training sessions that the first book of the Bible starts out with marriage, with Adam and Eve in the garden, and the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, from which we hear today, this Sunday also, it concludes with the wedding of the bride and the lamb, and
we hear a little snippet of that today, where he says, prepared for a bride, ready for her husband, and this beautiful image, and decorated, and pearls and jewels all ready to be brought into this union.
Right. So the wedding feast of the Lamb is the kind of the liturgy of heaven, and so we bring it all together. St. Paul has gotten more explicit about this notion of the image of God, the image of the church, as Father Michael was saying, the image of God as love, and then this bridal spirituality, I guess you would call it. And he says in the letter to the Ephesians that what I'm talking to you is a great mystery. It is as Christ loves his bride, the church. So, yeah. So we.
So how can we? What does it mean?
Yeah,
actually, right? Like, why is it important? This expansion of love, and this bringing in of the Gentiles, and the image of God as that we find in marriage. Really, all of that points us to how are we supposed to treat our neighbor? How are we supposed to experience this love that Jesus has prompted us to live in this gospel?
Right. And how are we to manifest who God is, both in the church and I'd say in the world? Mm-hmm. We get some insight from the married people among us, I would say. Now of course. We have 3 celibate guys here, so we know much less about what we're talking about than most of you that are listening to us.
Sometimes we get weird insights though because we see a lot of couples. Let's just say that sometimes being an observer helps.
And we were all born of a couple,
right?
So, so we have that firsthand experience, like most of us do. But it might be for.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, there's one of the things that I always like to point out to couples as I'm preparing them is that marriage is supposed to show the rest of us, all of us celibate guys, all the rest of the world. The purpose of it is to show us that it's possible for us to say, I'm not the most important person. Because married people, they promise to put the other person first all the time. They're supposed to be showing us what love looks like by putting someone else's needs, their good, before their own in every moment. And so it helps. That's part of what this is too. It shows us that we're not the center of the world. No individual is the center of the world. And that's a hard thing for any of us to take in at some point in our life.
I was saying to the kids on this same topic this week, maybe what we could do is to just take a minute this week and to think of maybe the married couple that we were most exposed to, or maybe most impressed by, or most influenced by, and ask ourselves, well, what was it about their marriage that was revealed to us? What did we see there? And what did we learn about God there? Father Michael was quoting me at a wedding we had last weekend, and he says, what I always say to engaged couples when they come to see me with a proposal for marriage, I said, well, God is up to something here, evidently. And so that's the whole process of preparing for marriage. And what is God up to? And so maybe I would say that in the marriages that you know of, or you have known, not all of them, because maybe it's harder to see in some marriages, but in that favorite marriage of yours, what did you learn about God from them? And Father Joshua's suggestion that, well, maybe it's that no one person by themselves is the center of the world, but that love is the center. And love, well, as John says,
God is love.
God is love. And so let's give thanks for our married people and their good example and their powerful, life-giving self-sacrifice. And maybe we can look around to see what God has in store for us by taking a long, loving look at some married people.
God bless you all.
You have a good week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
See, Ted, that's how you do it.